Thank you, Russell, for coming today.
Thanks,
it's really nice to have you here.
Great.
To talk about using data in the public sector and to get a bit more information about privacy and how we use that in the public sector. So, Chief Government Privacy Officer.
Yeah.
It's quite a long... It's a
long title.
So what is your role? What sort of things do you do?
Well, the fastest way and easiest way to describe our role is a coach for the system for privacy. If you think about all the things the coach does in terms of individual performance, collective performance, expectations and standards, working together as a team, learning the trade, learning your craft, not falling foul of the referee, understanding the rules of the game, having a good game for spectators, which are kind of equivalent of the public we serve. Our role as a coach to help the system to do privacy stuff better. Okay. Our primary role is working alongside privacy officers in the system, but not exclusively. We work with chief executives and ELTs. We'll work with everybody across the system.
So when you say system, what does that mean?
So our mandate extends over the core public service, 7 Crown entities and the 20 DHBs. Yeah. Our role is to have direct support for those agencies, but our advice and guidance is available for everybody.
How would I know to contact you? Like how do I know?
How do you know?
Yeah.
So a couple of things. First of all, if you worked in an agency, I'd ask you to seek out your privacy officer. Every entity must have a privacy officer. It's in legislation, and so you will have one, right? So my suggestion, if you can't find them, go look up your directory and go find your privacy officer and go talk to them. They should always be your first port of call, right? And then the privacy officers know about us. We have really good contact with them. And there's no problem getting hold of us through them or us directly after you've spoken to them if that's appropriate. Again, our first port of call is that we're there to help coach the system, but there are others within your organisations that will be able to help you.
Okay, so I would go to because I may not even know about what the privacy officer does.
Yep.
So if I was going to be looking at using some or collaborate with another agency to improve services in some way, shape or form, I would think I need to consider privacy. Like, do people consider that as an aspect? How do I know it's important?
Well, I mean, we try and do that. We really want agencies to consider privacy by design and by default. So really, it's really important that when you say, I want to share some information or collect some information, one of your first questions has to be, well, what am I trying to achieve with that? And does it need to be personal information? Does it need to be, Karen's details? Does it need to be your name, address? Does it need to be that to do the job, or can I get away with understanding using information that I already have that's not personal? That's the very, very first question you should have. If you say, no, I don't think I can use that information, then your next stage as well, then how do I go about collecting it? Do I have it, or do I have permission to use it? And then that's obviously where your privacy officers would start to come in.
So they would help me understand
they would help
when
you.
You said privacy by design. I'm not sure what
that really means. Yeah. So they'll guide you through the necessary steps to ask questions about what you're trying to do, and that will help elicit, what type of information you actually need, the sensitivity of that information, the grounds on which it's being collected, the ability for it to be shared, because actually that's the other thing as well. That even if others have that information, you may not be able to get access to it. Even if you're in the same organisation, you could be covered by different legislation. Okay. So a number of agencies that we know of have information collected, personal information collected under one legislative code, but it's not able to be shared because it's not actually able to be utilised under another legislative lever.
You mean like for different purposes?
Yeah,
so
for different purposes.
Collect it to help get this person some particular
service.
But
a service that's governed by another law. The fact that you've collected information over here, even if it's the same information that's required, unless you've got an information sharing agreement between those entities or even inside, you can't really share it. Okay. So it's pretty important that you understand, I guess, both the legislative framework, not just the Privacy Act, but your own legislation as well, and some of the mechanisms for collection and sharing, and that's where the privacy officer comes in.
Because they would help me.
They'll help you. They'll guide you through that. So they might need to do a privacy threshold assessment, which looks sort of at, do I need to go to the next stage, which is the privacy impact assessment, and they start to look at things such as, why am I collecting this level of specific information? How long do I intend to keep it for? And they look at things against the 12 principles in the privacy Act.
Okay.
And it's really important the Privacy Act principles are well understood by the privacy officers, but they'll guide you through from principles to practice. They'll help you with the questions you need to ask yourself to get that assurance that you're going to do this lawfully, but also with respect. I think the other thing is not just about the law, it's actually about what's doing right here. So a lot of it is around, do I have the public confidence and understanding to go do this? Do I need to have a license conversation? You need to go and say, actually, should I do this? Is this going to jeopardise my relationship with them, even if it's lawful? How does it look in the public eye? How do I deal with disclosure and modification and those things which are really, really important in terms of the law, but also in terms of people's perceptions of what government should be doing with my information, right?
Because that was my next question was, I'm giving my information to an agency. How do I know that it's going to be protected? And you see on the media that sometimes there's things that go on. How can I trust agencies to be handling privacy?
Well, quite simply, the role of the Privacy Commissioner is probably a good thing to bring in here. So the Privacy Commissioner's role is to ensure that agencies and public and private sector are actually doing the right thing, right? So if you have concerns about anything, you have a right to go to the Privacy Commissioner and complain and say, agency X is doing something odd, I can't get access to my information, I can't amend it, I don't know what they're doing with it. And the Privacy Commissioner can go ask further questions of the agency and ask more about why can't they get it, because there are certain rights that people have enshrined in there. The important thing is that what we're trying to do is get agencies to be more proactive and more transparent about what they're doing with information. So one of the things we think is also really, really important is the more that you can tell people you serve about what you're doing with that information, how it's being used, how it's being cared for, how it's being disposed of, about how I got a right to see and amend it, all those sorts of things. And we can publish that information up front, and that should be in your privacy statement, the stronger the level of trust should be in your organisation. And it's really important that you have privacy well defined and very, very easily accessible privacy statements from your homepage. But I think when you start getting to more about the detailed use of information, then I think disclosing how we use that, how we assess it, how we store it, and that is really, really important. So I think what I really emphasise is, along with the privacy by design thing, is if you're building new services, be prepared and do it up front to disclose all the information you need about how we collect that information, how we use it, how we store it, how we share it. Put that up front. That's an adjunct to your privacy statement. It's not a replacement for it, but it should go with every service. Okay. So you're building that trust.
And my privacy officer would help me
Absolutely.
Understand that and do that.
For sure.
That's great. So it makes that more transparent about what I'll be doing, say, with that information.
Exactly, because the worst thing that I think agencies can do is not be transparent about that, right? It's really, really imperative that, if we want trust and confidence of the people we serve, you've got to tell them what we're doing, right? It's got to be open for scrutiny, it's got to be open for critique, it's got to be open for complaints. So you're far better off and to do that up front. Before you're intending to do something, have a conversation. Right. Before you're going to do something, put it on the public domain. Before you're going to do something, put it up on the site. Even if you've done it, put it up there. Get the information out there, show people that you have actually taken the time to understand and ask yourself these questions and that you're willing to be transparent about that. That's really, really vital. So we think that's really, really important.